Hello, my name is Johnny Maunders and this is the week what just happened. Chancellor Rishi Sunak unveiled his spending review, marking the beginning of Austerity 2.0, the least anticipated sequel since Basic Instinct 2. He said that his announcement delivered on the priorities of the British people. I don't remember us having a big national priorities meeting, but it's not like a Tory to use spin, so it must have just clashed with EastEnders. I'm glad those present picked more austerity as our top priority, but I'm kind of excited to see what they voted second. Handing Serco more dodgy contracts or another Windrush scandal. Predictably, most public sector workers will see a pay freeze. Sunak justified this by saying that many private sector workers have been laid off or furloughed. He's right. Private sector workers aren't struggling because the government's mishandled the pandemic and isn't properly compensating those who can't work, but because frontline care workers greedily want a pay rise. Sunak also refused to retain the 20 quid a week universal credit top-up. That must be because as soon as COVID-19 disappears, everyone will automatically be 20 quid a week better off. I have to admit, I didn't realise that COVID debited us every week, but it makes total sense. How else could it afford to bribe the government to keep cocking it up? But fear not, it's not all cuts. Rishi Sunak announced a big rise in military spending. That should be a big comfort to us all. Just imagine if we had a government that selfishly lowered poverty instead of buying a ton of weapons to counter a threat that doesn't exist. Sunak said the military spending hike was necessary to strengthen the UK's place in the world. He's right. After all, nothing earns the respect of your neighbours more than telling people you don't have enough money to feed your kids and then splurging the cash you've hidden under the sofa on a bunch of weapons to intimidate people across town with. Meanwhile, Boris Johnson unveiled a new tier system in England. He said the move would bring simplicity and clarity. If there's one person we can trust to bring us clarity, it's Boris, just as long as it doesn't involve speaking or remembering any rules. Boris went on to say that we cannot divide the country up into loads and loads of very complicated subdivisions. He's right, that's why he's made it very simple and just plonked the whole of the north in Tier 3. Lastly, football legend Diego Maradona tragically died aged 60. As well as winning 2 World Cups and scoring what many think is the best ever goal, he was a consistent opponent of US imperialism, supporting the governments of Venezuela and Cuba and defending the Palestinian cause. With that in mind, it's a bit surprising that Donald Trump hasn't triumphantly claimed responsibility for Maradona's death, citing it as his Bin Laden moment. However, for many he'll be remembered for his flaws, such as demonstrating that cocaine addicts can still reach the top, inspiring a generation of Etonians.
Attention! Republican legal rep wanted for immediate start. Location, Washington. Fixture, permanent. Salary, negotiable. The successful candidate must be immune to COVID-19, media abuse and wardrobe malfunctions. Desired but not essential, insanity, excessive wealth and fraudulent behaviour.
Hello everybody, welcome to this Dangerous Podcast. My name is Johnny Maunders.
And my name is Bertie Trail.
You had to think about that for a minute, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I don't know.
Unfortunately, DJ has not joined us this week because it is Thanksgiving in America, which has begged the question for us, hasn't it, Bertie? What the hell is Thanksgiving?
Is it saying thanks for someone giving something? I think that's what it is. I could be wrong.
Yeah, maybe in its truest sense, that's what it is. I feel like I have this question in myself every year. Like every year, I'm like, what is Thanksgiving? And then I just can't be bothered to research it. Or I do start looking it up and then I just get bored on Wikipedia and then stop. But maybe this year will be the year that I finally find out. Maybe DJ can tell us what it is next week.
I mean, I learned that it had something to do with turkeys.
It does.
That's what I learned.
It could be like practice for Christmas, like training Christmas, basically. It's like, oh, let's make sure they get the turkey right. And then in a couple of weeks' time, we can do it again.
Makes sense, right? It's almost a month before. It's basically bang on a month before.
It's just a fraudulent way of getting another Christmas dinner.
I think we can all look at them and say the reason you're so fat is because you have 2 turkeys a year. Well, the rest of us, it's all right for some.
If they cut out that extra turkey, then they'd be normal sized country. They would have all this obesity issues.
Just remember though, those turkeys are bigger than normal turkeys because everything's bigger in America, especially Texas, because everything's bigger in Texas. So by normal standards, if everything's bigger in Texas, then it's even bigger than it is in America on average.
That's true. Is Texas bigger than America?
That's an important question. You know, people say a lot of this, you know, stuff about the election and it not being rigged and all that, but hold on a minute. If Texas is actually bigger than America, right? Well,
should America be a state in Texas?
Absolutely.
These are the important questions that our podcast was set up to ask, and the questions that we're not qualified to answer.
And questions like, if you spell Texas backwards, what does that say?
Saxet, which probably is how Texans would pronounce Sexit. Sexit.
Sexit. Come on, sex it up.
You wanted to speak about Donald Trump pardoning a turkey, didn't you? Should we do that very quickly?
Everyone loves a bit of Donnie Trump.
Particularly when it's turkey season.
I saw a cartoon saying that seeing as Donald Trump has made a turkey of himself post-election, he felt the need to pardon one on Thanksgiving, which was pretty apt.
He's definitely trying to roost in the White House, isn't he?
That's exactly what. Yeah, he was even calling out the names of turkeys and said what a wonderful family of turkeys they all were, which is always promising things to hear when he holds people like Ghislaine Maxwell in high regards and wishes her a happy and peaceful life, but he's happy to call Kamala Harris a nasty woman.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's really a good judge of character. So maybe those turkeys are all psychopaths. Maybe they're like the ones from film reference The Hangover Part 2 when the chickens take cocaine.
That's a niche reference, but it's a good reference. Yeah.
Another niche reference. Sorry, but chickens and cocaine.
I feel like your major contribution to this podcast, Bertie, is film references.
That's all it is. That's all I've got to offer.
I want our listeners to know that in between podcasts, Bertie spends all of his time just watching films over and over again, writing furious notes, hoping that there is a chance to use one of these references. He's been trying to wedge that chicken reference in like every week, and I keep cutting it out. There's a long queue as well. You've got to have good film references if you're getting a feature on the podcast. That's how it is. Exactly. What our listeners don't know is how many film references I cut out of the podcast.
Oh my God. I mean, I don't even know myself. Probably a good 5 film references. I hate to even imagine how many film references there are. Probably a good 5 an episode.
So anyway, Trump pardoned a turkey. So that means that turkey's not going to get eaten for Thanksgiving, right?
I think so. I think what he was saying is he's not going to strangle a turkey to death this year, which is obviously what he's done every other year. Because he's a good loser, and that's what good losers do.
Exactly. Good losers pardon turkeys. One thing for sure, though, Bertie, those chickens certainly love it when that big turkey Donald comes home to roost.
Comes a roosting, yeah.
So Donald pardoned a turkey. Bertie, last week you wowed us with your cocktail skills, and you promised that you'd come back with a different cocktail. You want to talk us through the cocktail you made this tonight?
Delivered on my promise. I've kind of been holding off drinking it until I kind of introduce it.
Cocktail means cocktail.
So cocktail for the night is, I'm going to try, okay, and then this is the hint. I'm going to try and list the ingredients in the least exciting order possible. Good. So that should tell you immediately that that's going to be quite difficult.
Last week, our podcast got criticised for focusing too much on flat water. So
flat fizzy water. It wasn't even still water. It was
flat fizzy water, yeah.
In this cocktail, start with the soft parts. Apple juice. Okay, cloudy apple juice.
Oh, see, right? Cloudy apple juice. That's like posh apple juice. Capella style apple juice.
Did you say the pedo style apple juice?
I said Capella style apple juice.
Sorry, yeah, no, I was going to say, yeah, he knows. And for all you Yanks out there, Capella is the best apple juice drink you will ever have in your life. Come to Oxfordshire and where it's made, and you'll find that out. So sorry, not pedo. So yeah, apple juice. Ingredient number 1. Ingredient number 2, lemon juice. Okay, now we're talking squeezed lemon juice. We're not talking lemon cordial. We're not talking lemon squash. This is lemon juice. It's the real shit. Okay,
straight from the lemon.
Real shit. Next ingredient. Okay, we're not done there. 2 slices of lime.
There's a bit of a citrus flavour going on there.
And 2 slices of lemon. Because you can't get enough lemon yet. Right. Next onto the hardcore ingredients. Right. We've got some lively prosecco in there.
Lively prosecco. What's an unlively prosecco, Bertie?
Because you know what I'm like. Sometimes I just put flat ingredients in things for no fucking reason. So I've got to specify to the audience that it's not flat. Typically, I've just got to say this: non-flat prosecco, sparkling prosecco.
That's definitely non-flat prosecco. Non-flat prosecco is definitely the new name for the podcast.
Every week, it's just going to be some cocktail reference.
Yeah, exactly.
Title. Oh. What have I done? I've bastardized this podcast.
Okay, so non-flat prosecco.
So non-flat prosecco, and I took care to make sure that it stayed non-flat, because when you cork it, you need to have something, one of those sort of pressurized things that keeps the fizz in there, and I've got one of those. I'll proudly
be careful when you cork it, everybody.
As much as I respect the old teaspoon in the top trick, I feel like it's just time to upgrade. It's like moving from a BlackBerry to an iPhone. It makes sense, just stop resisting, move forward with the times, people. Stop using a teaspoon. And oh yeah, of course, can't forget the ice cubes. I actually toned down the ice cubes today because I thought, why would I add more to something which is already quite intense? 2 ice cubes instead of 4, nothing insane. And to finish, oh no, sorry, can't forget, I forgot the gin last time as well. always gin. So my spirits cupboard is fairly sparse. So, but yeah, gin goes quite nicely with it. To finish it off, now this is going to wow you, wowzers trousers. A few pinches of none other than some dried parsley. Those are those little flakes you saw sort of floating on top.
That's parsley. I thought they were vanilla pods, but it's parsley. Why parsley?
Because I decided that I wanted to go all out this week.
Because you didn't have any mint.
I didn't have any mint. I had a lot of turmeric, and I decided no, that's not a good idea.
No.
I had cinnamon. And I thought cinnamon will sink and it will get soggy, and I don't want that. I want something dry but light, and also that kind of tastes a bit weird, because I just want to weirden up my cocktail. So
it sounds like quite a summery cocktail, though, doesn't it? Actually,
yeah. I mean, I'm quite a summery person. I'm like, I like my summery weather.
Yeah.
And I think you need a little bit of summer to get you through the winter. That's why I think. And it's been quite a summery day. It's been quite sunny out there, but very cold. It's a reminiscer package, is what I'll describe it as.
Is that what you're going to name it? The reminiscer package?
You know what? I think that's what it's got to be now. I've said that, the reminiscer package. It's me sitting in here, giving myself a little buzz and dreaming of the summer. Yeah.
We all need to do that sometimes.
We do. I mean, I had another name in mind, but I think I will keep that for a future cocktail.
Yeah, don't blow your wad.
No, I won't. I'm saving that one up for next one.
Shall we move on to more important matters, though?
Or pressing matters.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about pressing my lemons.
Leave your lemons out of this, please. As everyone knows, the El Pibe de Oro, Diego Maradona, died this week, age 60, which is so young when you think about it. I know he put his body through a lot of crap in his life, but it's really young. So yeah, it was a complete shock, wasn't it? Complete shock.
Absolutely. I mean, I think for a legend like Diego Maradona to just go at the age of 60 is like quite devastating.
Definitely. It must be absolutely gutting to the whole of Argentina.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically national treasure, isn't he?
He's like a god there. He's mythical, and in Naples as well, like sort of like a mythical figure.
I mean, when you watch those videos,
that goal against England, the second goal, the legal goal, was absolutely amazing. And because of the first goal, because of the hand of God, no one remembers, or very few people remember, just how good that second goal is, and it's absolutely incredible. Like it got voted the goal of the century, and I'm pretty like supportive of that, because to do that in a World Cup game, to be able to like basically take it past the whole team and slot it in like that, it's just incredible.
If you're calling the first goal the hand of God, you're calling the second one the foot of God, or something else, just God.
Just God.
Just calling him God.
It's incredible. And the guy won 2 World Cups, scored a huge amount of goals for Argentina and for Napoli and Boca Juniors as well. Incredible, but also quite a political figure as well, because he, a big supporter of Che Guevara, had a tattoo of Che Guevara, was friends with Fidel Castro. Actually, he had heart surgery, I think, in Cuba, and became friends with Fidel Castro. Supported Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. And also he's like complete opponent to US imperialism. He didn't want George Bush to come to South America, and basically, again, related to his support of Cuba and Venezuela, thought that America was causing a lot of problems in Latin America. And there's also a great story that when he met the Pope was talking about how concerned he was about child poverty. And apparently Maradona like pointed to the ceiling where there's like gold and everything and said, like, you can start by selling that and help all the poor kids. And you're completely right.
No, I mean, just hearing that, I mean, the man was obviously seriously influential in a country which is which has a dangerous history of politics as well, and it's really important in places like Argentina that there are people who represent the people of that country and don't just represent one part of it. And who better than him, who better than Diego Maradona, the man that everyone loved.
Exactly. And when he was at his pomp, it's important to remember that Argentina was in a military dictatorship. And so for many Argentinians, he became like a figure of rebellion and sort of like opposition, although his actual personal opposition to the dictatorship was quite limited. But he, as a figure, he became the sort of figurehead of Argentina, because they, Argentinians were not happy with their with their government. A complete figure that represents, obviously very vulnerable as a person, but came from such a poor background and never forgot that background. Always trying to stand up for the little guy. A big supporter of Palestine as well and Palestinian liberation. So all in all, what a guy, Diego Maradona.
Absolutely. I think he sets an example not just to the citizens of his country, but to other footballers. And I think you have to say, you know, with what's going on at the moment in our country, with people like Marcus Rashford making the contributions to society, and it's so important to have role models like that an international football legend is one thing, but being a philanthropist and inspiring the people to do what's right for them is a huge achievement.
Exactly. So all in all, rest in power, Diego Armando Maradona.
R.I.P.
Hi, and welcome back to Ramsey's Political Nightmares. Today, I'll be interviewing Boris Johnson, who decided it's a good fucking idea to leave the EU and leave us all in a pile of fucking shit. I'm going to tell him that he needs to put more fucking lamb sauce on his fucking dish. Otherwise, I'm going to fucking kick him out of the kitchen, and with his fucking apron, he'll be running out with his tail between his legs.
So on to our next subject, which is the spending review. This week, the Chancellor Rishi Sunak launched his sort of spending review, which I guess is sort of budget for the next year. There's a lot of people that quite like Rishi Sunak because he's quite like polished on camera, but behind all this was austerity 2.0. When Boris was elected in December, he said, we're not going to return to austerity. We're never having austerity again. And yet we're back in austerity. Obviously, there's been a pandemic. Obviously, the economy's taken a huge hit, but the measures that have been announced are not going to solve that, and they're not going to be popular with people. The biggest sort of noteworthy thing is the public sector pay freeze. Frontline NHS staff are exempt, which is good, but even then they're not getting a particularly big pay rise. But care workers are not exempt, so they're not going to have their pay increase, particularly at a time when they're in really the front line of the COVID fight.
Oh yeah.
And teachers as well, who are carrying on working throughout all this. And I know loads of teachers who are scared shitless about COVID and going back to keep working and in the complete hotbeds of the virus, a transmission, and yeah, they're not getting a pay rise. And people in the public sector have seen their wages in real terms decrease over the last 10 years. And this is just a massive kick in the teeth for them. And Rishi Sunak said, I can't justify it to the British public, but that's just absolute bullshit. You know, the majority of the British people would want teachers to have a pay rise, let's be honest, and care workers to have a pay rise.
100%.
Absolute rubbish.
To argue that because of COVID, those pay rises aren't justified. I mean, COVID is a cause for the complete opposite argument as well. You know, you can't just say, oh, you know, we can't afford it, because, you know, like COVID is ultimately being dealt with by those frontline workers, by our public sector. They're the ones who are, you know, fronting the illness every day and who are dealing with it. And the teachers and staff in those schools, that they're on the front line every day and they're having to do a job in adverse conditions, and you're expecting them to do it for less. I mean, not just expecting them to doing it for less now, you know, it's less going forward. And, you know, let's not forget, you know, like the value of money is decreasing and has decreased enormously over the last 10 years. It's very easy to overlook that, you know, and exclude it from your graphs and all that. But, you know, like the value of money goes up, and, you know, the everyday person needs a bigger wage increase.
Individual purchasing power has decreased consistently since 2010. It's just not good enough. The other thing that they announced was that they're not going to maintain the current increase in universal credit. So during COVID, they've increased universal credit, but that's going to go back to how it was. So, which again is just another kick in the teeth, because so many people unemployed at the moment, and so many people who are in employment struggling. And that's probably the biggest problem in this country at the moment. Is not unemployment, though it soon will be, but it's the people who are in poverty, who are employed, but their jobs are not paying them enough money to survive.
It's a downward spiral for a lot of these people, because, as we know, living in poverty leads to you know, high, you know, basically a worse health, worse prospects, and you know, well, lower living standards, and you can't sustain life at that level without a basic standard of living. That's just common sense, really. And and if we're talking about universal credit, people who've had the pleasure of taking out universal credit will know how fucking shite it was before COVID started. Yeah. So for it to go back to what it was, I mean, obviously, it needed to go up during COVID. For it to go back to going back to what it was, I mean, I think people were screaming and jumping up and down about it way before COVID, and that was making the news before COVID as well.
Exactly. And the other thing that was announced is that, again, it's another thing they keep saying, we're increasing spending on the NHS, but the money they're increasing the NHS spending by is only, this is shocking, only 10% of the pre-existing, so this is before COVID, pre-existing funding gap. So it's only 10% of the funding gap that was present before COVID-19. And if COVID-19 has showed us anything, it is that the NHS needs more funding. And all this comes as the government has wasted so much money on like dodgy contracts to friends of theirs. The stuff today about Matt Hancock giving contracts to his neighbours, to one of his neighbours, that he contacted over WhatsApp. Like, this is absolutely insane. All these contracts have wasted huge amounts of money. Like the thing that came out last week about the 21 million to the Spanish sort of consultant who was a sort of go-between between deals. It's just so dodgy, and all this money that was wasted on that, and all the PPE that didn't even work. And you think, and now they're telling us they don't have enough money. Yet they have all this money to give Serco these crappy contracts. It's just.
No, exactly, and the test and trace thing, they've invested so much in it, and it's failed. And
I'll tell you what, if you want to do a pay freeze your own wages, government, freeze Dido Harding's wages, freeze all these dodgy contracts, no more.
And Matt Hancock, if you're listening, stop spending so much money on takeaways, you dirty bastard.
Hello, this is Jeremy Vine, and this is Not Panorama. Later today in the programme, we shall be discussing the impacts of takeaway culture on British people. We shall be interviewing Matt Hancock from the Conservative Party, who spent over £50,000 on takeaway to support his party leaders.
Make a sandwich, do what the rest of us do. We don't have money to be frittering away on takeaway. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a cheeky Domino's, but £50,000 worth. Come on, mate. That's a grim amount of takeaways. You should feel bad. I feel bad when I have when you have a night out and you've had a binge and then you've had a takeaway the next day and nothing else, and you feel kind of low in your soul. Just imagine how Matt Hancock feels after 50 grand takeaways. How
can you spend 50 grand on takeaways?
I don't know.
That's more than most people. That's more than most people earn a year.
I mean, that's Brexit. That was the Brexit campaign that they did that, and that was probably over like a month or so. But £50,000.
Do you think that's where the Brexit money is going to pay for Matt Hancock's takeaways?
His takeaway addiction. I'm going to call it an addiction.
Did you see this clip of him on Good Morning Britain the other day being interviewed by Piers Morgan? And it was about MP salaries basically. Piers Morgan kept asking him that if they increase, like, would he oppose an increase in MP salaries? Because there's talk at the moment of MP salaries being increased, and Matt Hancock basically refused to answer the question and refused to rule out accepting a higher salary. So just the guy is completely morally bankrupt, and he's addicted to takeaways. So
morally bankrupt, but he's not financially bankrupt, or at least he's not to be. I need more money for takeaways. That's what he said. Look, Piers, like, if he was being honest, he'd be like, look, Piers, I need more money for takeaways. Like,
his local takeaways certainly aren't bankrupt, that's for sure.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, Deliveroo must be doing well off it.
They must.
So they are helping some businesses out.
Do you think there's like a massive growth industry in Matt Hancock's constituency?
Yeah.
Like all these, like,
we've invested lots of money in frontline food companies. Yeah,
I mean, they've all got like a picture of Matt Hancock outside. It's like the Hancock Grill and the Hancock Balti.
Oh dear. I mean, a lot of stuff that guy has done has been questionable. I mean, I remember him making announcements about not going out during COVID, and he was outside and all this kind of stuff, And
there was that great line where he was interviewed, and at the end he said, like, they said, "Oh, thanks for coming on, Minister." And he said, "Great to have me on."
Great to have me on.
Terrible. Hello, my fellow peoplefolk. This is your main bosom buddy, Big Boris. Now, I've been hearing some menacing scuttlebutt that our recent spending review pronunciamento amounts to austerity 2.0. Balderdash. Okay, so teachers are getting a pay freeze. My Latin teacher at Eton was a millionaire. I'm sure they all are. And I comprehend that we're not sustaining the 20 quid universal credit top-up, but boo-hoo. The peasants would probably squander it all on adult chat rooms. I certainly know I would. I understand that it approximates plenteous cuts, but alas, if we don't make stupendous reductions, How will we afford to bequeath boundless coinage to our chums to provide us things that they have no expertise in? Oh, fiddlesticks. That does sound a bit like more austerity. Oh well, at least it'll be worse for those infernal northerners. Over and out, my fellow squires. Okay, shall we move on to a very related subject, which is the new tier system? So from the 2nd of December, which is on Thursday, one of those days, we have a new tier system. So it's basically like the old tier system, but stricter. Yeah. Basically, it's like if you're in the south, tier 2, if you're in the north, tier 3, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works, really, isn't it? It's like, as we've known, basically what they're hoping to do is build a wall made of ice, like in Game of Thrones. Sorry, another reference. And it's going to be a case of keeping the zombies out, keeping the infected White Walkers out of the south.
Do they want the Watford Gap to be an actual gap?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There'll be the Watford Gap, and that will just be another wall. Yeah, you're north of the wall. You're going to get eaten by flesh-eating White Walkers, and you're all going to end up looking like Mary Berry.
Or Mary Berry. So, like, if you're in tier 1, which is basically Cornwall.
If you live in a place where no one really lives, other than miners and people who have second homes.
And possibly inbred people.
And toothless goblins, then fine.
Leave Norfolk out of this, Bertie.
Yeah, hold on a minute. What about Norfolk? Yeah, that's the other extreme, isn't it?
They're toothless goblins. I thought that's what you're referring to. Sorry, people from Norfolk. So yeah, so in tier 1, basically it's the rule of 6 anywhere. So like indoors, outdoors. In tier 2, which is basically most of the south, it's no indoor mixing, but rule of 6 outside. And then if you're in tier 3, which is basically the north, you can only meet other people in parks. And then it's which doesn't make any sense anyway. Like why are parks okay? Because there are really small parks, there are really big parks. Like why don't you just say don't meet anybody?
It's due to last 2 weeks, isn't it? This lockdown, and then they're going to review the system and see how shite it is. So yeah, it should be interesting. But I think Bristol is actually tier 3 as well. Yeah, Bristol and North Somerset, so Bath as well. So
maybe it's like North Somerset. It's because it's the north.
I'll be honest. The main thing that I thought about when this came out is what tiers is it possible to go to the pub on? Are any pubs open or like because this is this is my main. This is how I measure the degree of lockdown. The pub open?
I think tier 1 and tier 2 the pubs are open.
That's what I thought as well. So I thought, okay, where I am, West Somerset should be okay, and then like maybe Southeast. How's things down there? Is it?
Yeah, we're tier 2 as well. Yeah. I feel very sorry for people in the north. There's also lots of things that don't make sense. For example, from what I understand, London has a higher infection rate than Manchester does, and yet London is tier 2 and Manchester is tier 3. How does that make any sense?
I don't know. I just kind of think they've got it in for the Northerners now.
Basically,
which
it feels like
which, to be honest, I think we've always known about the Conservatives.
It basically sounds like if you've got a Tory MP, you're tier 2, and if you've got a Labour MP, you're tier 3, basically.
It could well be that.
Unless you're in London, in which case you're tier 2. It doesn't make any sense. The other thing which is funny is that the website with all the information on it crashed today, which I think is a great metaphor for like the way the government handles COVID.
The test and trace website. It's like they can't seem to, in this age of technology, they can't seem to.
I reckon Boris does it himself. Does all the tech stuff.
He's behind it all. He is behind everything.
WordPress.
He coded that himself.
On WordPress, or like
you need to turn it on with the big button.
Or one of the most basic free website things like blogger.com. Do you remember when everyone used blogger.com or Blogspot? It's got like government at Blogspot.
He's trying to give government advice, free government advice through Bebo. Like his Bebo account. Come and see me on my Bebo account, and I will tell you everything you need to know about the tiered system.
Come to my live video on MySpace. I'll tell you all about my
MySpace again.
But yes, the website crashed, and there's obviously like a backlash from Tory MPs as well that are really like pro-business and stuff, upset that businesses have to shut.
Yeah, it is really. It goes back to this kind of thing with COVID. Is the scientists versus the economists, really, isn't it? I suppose. But the problem look at it in different ways.
But the problem in this country is that they've got everything wrong. Like they
have everything.
Like at the beginning they backed the economists, and which completely destroyed public health and actually ended up costing us more money in the long term. In fact, I was watching Newsnight the other day, and our economic downturn effectively is the second highest in the world, only second to Spain. So it just shows you that even if they were trying to protect the economy at the beginning, they just completely effed it up. The other thing is that scientists are now warning that there could be a third wave after Christmas because of this government decision to ease off at Christmas, isn't there? Like they're going to have these 3 households can meet thing. Scientists are worried that this is going to create a third wave.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to look at America and how bad it is there, and that's the simple. That's the extremity. I guess you have a scenario playing out where you've literally had someone who said, "Screw COVID, whatever." Like just go for 100% throttle on the economy, and look what it's done. They're literally on their third wave, and like it's obscene how many people are getting it.
They've had more waves than an autumn day in Newquay.
Yeah, literally, fucking wave after wave after wave, big wave as well. Waves keep getting bigger and bigger.
This whole thing about Christmas has made a few people say, like, should we cancel Christmas, basically? Which got me researching the Christmas of 1647, which, of course, was when Christmas was banned. This was after the Civil War, so when the parliamentarians beat the monarchy in the Civil War, and the Puritans, the Puritan parliamentarians, basically banned Christmas because they thought it was too Catholic. And going back to Norfolk, there were actually riots in Norwich about it.
I want my turkey.
Basically, I like to think that's what they were saying.
Maybe that's how Thanksgiving started.
Yes, Norwich people wanting their turkeys.
A Norwich man wanting his turkey can somehow trigger a religious festival in the United States. Hey, there were Puritans in the United States.
To be honest, that sounds like how every event in America started.
Do is look at the place names in Massachusetts and New York, and you will see that every place is literally somewhere in England. I mean, come on, England or Norwich or Denmark or Cornwall or wherever you're from.
I've actually just searched up Norwich, USA, and there is a Norwich. Yeah. It's a city in Connecticut. It's called the Rose of New England.
There you go.
And there's a river that runs in it called Shetucket.
Shetucket. So they've gone a little bit Japanese there, Shetucket.
That basically sounds like you don't have enough money for KFC, and you also have diarrhea. So
you got the Shetucket bucket.
Yeah, you've ordered the Shetucket.
Bucket full of Shetucket mushrooms.
The bargain Shetucket.
The Shetucket. Oh my god. Maybe you'll have to use that for the episode now.
Yeah, bargain Shetucket.
Bargain Shetucket.
So yeah, maybe we should ban Christmas like the Puritans did in 1647, and wait for the riots in Norwich.
Yeah, I think we get our pitchforks, we rise up, and we just eat turkey on our own, crying. That's in Christmas.
Norwich. We all gather in Norwich to eat our turkeys with our pitchforks.
The last hurrah. Maybe that's as far north as we'll get before we get eaten by White Walkers.
That's as far north as we'll get before the Tories kill us.
Just returning uni students running back to the south, screaming for mummy and daddy. It's too late.
Do you think
that's why they're fencing them in, because they believe that they're all White Walkers? That's what it is. Fence in the students. They're contagious. Don't let them out.
It's definitely Jacob Rees-Mogg behind that.
Jacob Rees-Mogg stars as Jon Snow. Oh my god! Can you imagine Jacob Rees-Mogg? Hello, my name is Jon Snow.
Jonimus Snowimus.
John Rees Snow.
It's terrible.
From the studio that brought you Barnard Castle, Seeing is Believing, and Shrek 9, comes a return of a franchise nobody wanted. Big Boris and the Hancock are the corrupt fish out of water, trying willfully to rid the UK of a dangerous virus they've had months to get a handle on. Their last hope is to introduce yet another poorly designed tier system and pray it works. Starring 2 posh idiots who hate the North, one with a feather duster on his head and the other wearing the same pink tie every day. 3 tiers at a COVID funeral.
Should we move on to the last item on our agenda of fun?
Last item on our Christmas list.
It's basically about a sort of crisis I've been having the last couple of days. A couple of nights ago, I had a dream in which I went on a slightly mystical date/adventure with Fleetwood Mac lead singer Stevie Nicks in sort of 70s/80s sort of Stevie Nicks. We went to see fireworks and had a tarot card reading and all sorts.
For everyone who's listening to this, I'd just like to point out that this is the first time I'm hearing this as well. So if you're feeling worried about where this is going, I share that feeling.
No, it was purely PG-13. Don't worry. Peggy 3, and anyway, so I woke up and I literally have not been able to get Stevie Nicks off my mind, and I've basically been listening to her music and Fleetwood Mac music on repeat. Particularly the song Gypsy by Fleetwood Mac, I've been listening to that on repeat for the last 24 hours. And they got some good songs, but it's a bit of a crisis. Yeah. So have you ever had a dream about a celebrity?
Before I answer that question, I'd just like to say, can anyone try and help Johnny to break his chain?
Yes, great one.
Sorry about that.
Do you know what their advice will be to break my chain?
Go on.
They will say, "Go your own way."
Aye, there we go. Well, I must confess, I've had many an exciting dream about Chris Packham talking to me about the new climate age and being woke to the climate emergency.
He woke to that climate emergency.
That's just me. I just love climatey stuff.
Wasn't Chris Packham the guy where they started some weird right-wing people started protesting him and leaving dead animals on his gate and stuff?
He's had a tough time. He gets bullied a lot because he's got a speech impediment. It's just what happens. In this world of ours. I am actually trying to search the old memory banks for a good old celebrity fantasy.
It doesn't have to be a fantasy. It could be awful. It could be, I don't know, Ainsley Harriott locking you up in a dungeon or something.
It's strange, but whenever I was a kid, my mum told me this. Right when I was 4 years old, I loved watching. As we all did, we all loved the old Disney classics, didn't we? Because we're children of the 1990s, millennials, and we loved our Disney, we loved our Toy Stories, our Lion Kings, and we loved also Pocahontas. And I loved Pocahontas so much that my mum once found me kissing the TV. So if you're wondering what my type is, right, look at Pocahontas and you'll know.
So any Disney animated character is Bertie's type.
Yeah, Native American basically.
Native American, two-dimensional.
Oh yeah.
People.
Preferably made out of just pieces of cardboard as well. Just makes it even better. So, yeah, Pocahontas would be my celebrity fantasy. She's not even a celebrity really. She probably was back in the day.
Back in her time. Right.
She's a forgotten celebrity.
Well, on that note, we let's draw it to an end. So yeah, if you've got any information about how I get out of my Stevie Nicks craze, then please let me know. Also, if you have information about Thanksgiving, please tell us. We may or may not read it depending on how boring your message is.
We're very British, so we don't know anything about American kind of culture really.
Nor are we bothered to find out, to be brutally honest.
That's precisely really what I was saying. Is we don't care.
We pretend we care, but really we don't. Everyone have a great time. I don't know why I just said a great time.
Having a great time.
just have a really great time. And yes, stay dangerous, everybody. Stay safe.
Stay dangerous.
Keep on keeping on.
And on the 5th of November 2016, I turned to my wife and said, "You better start believing in ghost stories, Miss Barbosa. You're in one. Donald Trump has been elected president."